What is it?
All right, so the theme of what is it? The theme of this week is very simple. It's the packing list for summer. So summer is here in New Zealand, and we're really excited to welcome you with warmer temperatures, a slightly more predictable weather, slightly. The purple lupins all around the South Island, especially around beautiful Lake Tekapo. So yeah, it comes with a few downsides as well, as New Zealand gets a little busier during summertime, and so you may encounter more people alongside the walking tracks or alongside the roadside pit stops where you can take some great photos. But yes, summer is here. So what do you need to pack? And also some extra tips and things you need to know about traveling in New Zealand in summer is what we're going to be covering today. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so to begin with, Laura is going to give us a quick rundown of what you can expect in New Zealand in summer. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, when is summer in New Zealand? It is during the months of December, January and February. There's no specific date of when summer starts in New Zealand. It just usually is just like, okay, December's here, that's summer. That's kind of how it works here. So just to give you some sort of roundabout temperatures of what to expect temperature-wise when you're in New Zealand. On the North Island, you usually would experience average highs of around 25 degrees Celsius.
Which is 77 degrees of freedom units.
Yes, and in the, or lows, sorry, of 12 degrees Celsius, which
is 54 degrees of freedom units.
Yes.
That's Fahrenheit, by the way.
Yeah.
That's all I call Fahrenheit.
Yeah. And then in the South Island, it's usually a little bit cooler than the North Island. So you will get highs usually of around 22 degrees Celsius.
72 degrees Fahrenheit.
And then lows of around 10 degrees Celsius.
50 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes.
I feel like a savant dog next to you.
I've trained you well. Things to note, just sort of general things to know about summer in New Zealand is that the sun is very harsh, especially during summer in New Zealand. So the UV rays are some of the highest in the world. So yeah, sunscreen is an absolute must, or any other sun protection, covering yourself up from the sun during those sort of midday hours. Also, yeah, when the sun, basically the heat of summer, mostly as obvious as it sounds, comes from the sun. So as soon as the sun goes in, and maybe if there's cloud cover or when night falls, then the temperature can feel so much different. So that's where you need to sort of be prepared with versatile clothing, which we will get onto later. And one final thing to note about summer is that it is the most popular time for traveling around New Zealand. Yes, so you will find that tourist attractions are at their busiest. You'll find that in terms of pricing for car rentals or bus tours, even some accommodations like hotels will put their prices up higher during this time of year. So just bear in mind that if you are planning a trip for summer, although the weather can be a bit more idyllic compared to other months of the year, you will be sort of paying a premium for your travel in New Zealand, and attractions will be a bit busier than they usually are.
Indeed. So, what clothes do you need to pack for summer in New Zealand? So, the key to packing clothes for summer in New Zealand is to pack versatile outfit. So, things like hiking pants or leggings that can really see you an entire week, as you can take things on and off and on and off as you progress. For men, those hiking pants which you can unzip and make them
shorts.
Yeah, short is really, really handy as well, which is really cool. And so, and you'll find that in most accommodations, you'll find laundry facilities, which is quite handy and will help you kind of get your, being able to pack light. But if you want a bit of a list per person, Laura has something prepared for you.
Yeah, so just to go through a packing list that could be for, like Robin says, per person. It can be for men, women, kids, whoever in your party, just as long as you have all of these items for each person. Obviously, things that are more for females. You don't pack for males, duh, but or you can if you want. So just bear in mind that every item might not actually be applicable to everyone, so just obviously take what applies to you. So starting off, you will need at least one pair of leggings / sweatpants, so something comfortable to travel in, to sleep in, to maybe if you've got a huge long bus trip, if you're doing that sort of nighttime bus trip from Wellington back up to Auckland, those sort of things. Leggings / sweatpants are good. One pair of hiking pants. New Zealand is an outdoorsy country, so having outdoorsy attire is recommended. Next up, one pair of shorts for those extra hot days, and you need to cool off, wear some more cooling clothing. Next up, we recommend having 6 tops / t-shirts / singlets, whatever you sort of prefer to wear as an underlayer. We recommend 6 usually because, that's almost a week. And we do recommend to usually pack about a week's worth of clothing and then use laundry facilities as you go, because you really don't need to overpack. That's just extra stuff to carry. And there's plenty of laundry facilities throughout the country and in accommodations. We recommend having one light long-sleeved top. This is good for covering your skin from the sun or from sandflies. Just having a long sleeve layer is just good in case you do get sunburn as well, and you're like, I need to take a break from the sun exposure and having my skin exposed. Then it's just good to have that sort of long sleeve top available. We also recommend to have one sweater / hoodie / fleece or whatever mid layer you prefer, so that when the sun does go in, when it does get a bit cooler, you do have that layer to keep warm, because the temperatures can really feel like they fluctuate a lot even in summer. You won't be in your shorts and t-shirt the whole time. Next up, we recommend that you have 6 pairs of socks, a mix of woolen and cotton socks. Woolen's usually better if you're doing hikes. For instance, if it's raining and you get your socks wet, maybe they usually dry out a lot faster, and cotton can just soaks in the cold. It's generally not a very good material to use for outdoors activities, but cotton socks can usually feel sort of, well, first of all, more compact for packing, but a bit cooler if you are just sort of just spending the day in the city, that sort of thing. Just a mix of both is recommended. Also, related to your sort of undergarments, 6 pairs of underwear is
tighty whities.
Your tighty whities. For women or for, I don't know, guys with boobs, 2 bras, if applicable, is usually all you need. And, you can always use laundry facilities. And next up, I would recommend 1 pair of hiking shoes, usually when we're traveling around. We tend to just kind of wear the same hiking shoes or hiking boots for everything that we do in New Zealand, because packing hiking shoes can take up a lot of space in your luggage, but having a pair that's really comfortable to wear essentially for most of your trip that's kind of how we do things, and it has worked out well for us. We basically find it easiest and more comfortable to just travel the entire country wearing the same sort of hiking shoes or hiking boots, and of course they're the most comfortable item to have for doing the walks, even the short walks that New Zealand is famous for. Speaking of footwear, we also recommend to pack 1 pair of flip-flops or jandals, as they call in New Zealand. This is ideal for, days if you're just going to, maybe if you're going to the beach, if you're doing any water sports activities like whitewater rafting, you need something quickly to get changed into afterwards, that sort of thing. If you're staying in hostels or campsites and you're using, communal showers, some people prefer to wear flip-flops while they're in the shower. So there's a lot of good uses for flip-flops, and there's a reason why they're sort of everybody in New Zealand wears flip-flops, or as they call them here, jandals, because they're just ideal for a lot of different situations here. Also, make sure you pack at least 1 sort of set of swimwear. There's a lot of water-related activities in New Zealand, as I've gone through a couple already. There's There's whitewater rafting, there's sort of blackwater rafting, caving in Waitomo, maybe canyoning, that sort of thing. On top of that, there's also a ton of hot pools, of course, that you'll want to wear swimwear for. Maybe if you want to have a swim at the lake or any of the beaches, that sort of thing. So yeah, there's lots of reasons to pack swimwear. And in New Zealand, just as an extra tip in New Zealand, guys tend to wear board shorts. There's not really, not many people wear Speedos on this side of the world. Just if you were like, oh, shall I take my tighty Speedos or shall I take my board shorts?
Why are you looking at me?
Probably best to bring your board shorts. It's kind of like what's considered normal here, but you do you, guys, you do you. And then, yeah, for swimwear, I mean, girls just wear whatever. There's a whole variety of swimwear that girls wear here. And yeah, sun cap or sun hat, protect your head, from the sun. So yeah, pack yourself a sun hat, and for more sun protection, a pair of sunglasses is also going to be pretty handy in summer.
All right, so what Laura mentions are basically the bare essential for a summer trip in New Zealand. So some travelers may feel a bit more comfortable with a city outfit and you know, like jeans and dress and you know, shirt, those kind of things, and feel free to pack that if you feel like it. However, do note that you won't feel out of place wearing more outdoor style clothing in cities in New Zealand. The sense of fashion here is pretty relaxed. In the meantime, let's continue with our theme of the week and let's talk about toiletries. So we all have our own toiletries to pack and our own beauty regimes that we like to follow. So obviously you know what you want to pack for yourself for your own toiletries, but here's a list of things that you should not miss when packing when traveling to New Zealand in summer.
Yes, so the number one thing you need to pack in that relates to toiletries is sunscreen. Make it at least SPF 30. Anything, you know, your SPF 15 is probably not going to be so effective here with the UV index being so high. So yeah, sunscreen is definitely a number one to get. Number two on the list should be insect repellent, because sandflies are, there's a lot of sandflies in New Zealand during summer. So, and once they bite you, they leave a little bit of an itchy bite behind, although they don't spread diseases or anything. They're just annoying to get bitten by. So having some sort of insect repellent is quite handy. Some after sun moisturizer in case you do get sunburnt. Having some, for instance, aloe vera cream, that sort of thing, will be quite handy. Next up, remember your toothbrush, your toothpaste, that sort of thing. Shampoo, conditioner, if that's what you usually use. Deodorant, hairbrush and comb, hair bobbles and hairbands. Feminine hygiene products, razor, makeup if you use it, Q-tips if you use it. Obviously, all these things is depending on whether you use this stuff or not. Maybe tissues, your contact lenses and glasses, maybe a spare pair of glasses in case you lose them. And finally, your prescription medication. So when you are bringing prescription medication, for instance, make sure that they are in sort of the original packaging. We're showing that it is prescribed to whoever is traveling. That's one of the things that may be checked at the border. Usually not commonly checked, but it's just one of those things that is sometimes checked. We didn't mention soap on the list, usually because when you are staying in hotels, motels, that sort of, or private rooms in New Zealand, they do include soap. Usually, but if you're staying in a hostel or a campsite, then in that case, you'll want to bring your own soap. Yeah.
All right. So next up, we will be talking about what you need to have in your first aid kit. All right. So what do you need to have in your first aid kit, Laura?
So just as a really concise, small first aid kit essentials, things that you'll want are your plasters, or if you're from the US, Band-Aids, disinfectant wipes, gauzes with clips and tape, tweezers, hand sanitizer. That's particularly good for if you are doing any of the hikes and you're using any of the drop toilets and stuff and they don't have hand washing facilities, then that's always handy to take on a hike with you. Painkillers like paracetamol or ibuprofen. Antiseptic cream is always good, hydrocortisone cream, and antihistamines. So that's really just a concise first aid kit. But of course, if you often run into any other sort of medical issues, or you have a few things that you prefer to take with you, then obviously by all means add those in. But that's just to say, like, that's a really small first aid kit that you can have just in your day pack. If anything, if you maybe cut yourself when you're out and about, or accidents happen, then they're usually like the sort of quick things that you can have on you, and you'll be glad to have them. Also for blisters, like if you're not used to, you've got a new pair of walking shoes or something, you haven't worn them in, then that is especially like the number one thing people are happy to have a first aid kit for.
For sure. That's what we carry with us every time we do a hike.
Yeah.
All right, so next up we'll talk about all the miscellaneous and the thing that people always forget when packing for a trip to New Zealand in summer. All right. So next up on our list, we have the miscellaneous. So all the extra stuff that don't fit in any categories, and that a lot of people tend to forget 1, 2, or 3 of those on the list. So this is going to be a catch-all kind of category with a bunch of stuff that you need to remember to have packed for your trip to New Zealand. Take it away, Laura.
All right, let's talk about your New Zealand travel adapters. So in New Zealand, they have the 3 sort of prong travel adapter. Type 1 is the type. So make sure that you do have, you can use your electronic devices from overseas in New Zealand. Also for you Americans, the voltage here is different as well. So if you make sure to look to see if you need a voltage converter as well.
All right.
You'll also need to have a camera. Well, maybe you don't need to have a camera.
Just get your phone.
But you can use your phone. But if you're like, oh, I want a special type of camera for this or that, you just remember that. Electronic device chargers. Remember all your chargers. You might need extra batteries for something. So if you are packing batteries, it's best to pack batteries in your carry-on bag rather than your check-in luggage, because
it's mandatory to pack them in carry-on bag.
Yeah, it's mandatory.
And to that, I will add that packing one of those little adapter that you can put in the cigarette plug of the car in order to charge your devices is a good idea as well.
Yes, if you are renting a vehicle during your time in New Zealand. A passport. You need it to get to New Zealand.
The good thing is that you're not getting into New Zealand if you don't pack your passport. So here you go.
Driving license, and if applicable, your international driving permit. So if you're renting a vehicle and your driving license is not written in English, you do need to accompany your driving license with an international driving permit. So make sure that you have both if needed. Otherwise, your driving license will be needed for picking up a rental vehicle. Bearing in mind that your overseas driving license does not class as ID for proving your age in New Zealand, so you can't use that for buying alcohol. You'll have to use your passport. But just driving license is essential, obviously, for renting a vehicle. Make sure that you have your flight ticket or flight information, and also your return ticket.
Or $1,000 available of funds in order to buy yourself a return ticket.
Yes, that is one of the requirements for coming to New Zealand. Also, make sure, if applicable, you have your visa and the supporting evidence. You'll know what supporting evidence that is depending on your visa. Also, make sure that if you are from one of the countries that does not require a visa for visiting New Zealand, make sure that you have applied for the NZDT before coming to New Zealand.
We have a video about that. Many videos about that.
All that information can be found on our channel as well as on NZ Pocket Guide. So if you're unsure about all that, all the information is on the website or on our channel.
And on the task.
And on the task. Next up, make sure you have some New Zealand dollars ready for at least your first few days in New Zealand. If you are planning on just using credit card or whatever, like card payments for coming to New Zealand, it's still a good idea to have some cash with you.
Yep.
Just in case your bank blocks your card because you're doing overseas purchases. That's happened to many people that we've known coming to New Zealand, especially people from the US. Even if you told your bank, like, okay, I'm going overseas, you should tell your bank that you are.
Yep.
But even if you have, sometimes things go wrong. So just make sure that you have some cash for your first few days. Speaking of payment methods, also make sure that you do have a credit or debit card. Yep. Next up, make sure, since the water in New Zealand is, like the tap water is completely safe in New Zealand, it is drinkable, make sure that you have a reusable water bottle. Otherwise, you can also, a good idea is to bring a water bladder if you're planning on doing a lot of outdoors activities and walking / hiking. So one of those water bladders where it has like a straw coming out of your backpack is quite handy. But otherwise, a water bottle is going to be really useful as well.
To piggyback on your idea, comments, Ginger Green says, I was able to sign up for a Kiwi Access card for proof of age. It's quite helpful.
Yeah.
Good idea. Yeah, good.
Yeah, that is a really, really good alternative to having to take your passport everywhere and a lot more secure. So yeah, that's great. Next up for packing, if you are planning on doing self-catering, it's quite handy to have some food containers with you. So for travel size containers, there are collapsible food containers, but whatever you have is usually good. And when you're packing food containers in your bag, you can usually stuff things in there. So that's quite handy. Shopping bags, again, if you're self-catering, then having a reusable shopping bag that can, scrunch up quite concisely is a good idea. In New Zealand, you do have to pay for, although they're like plastic bags are no longer a thing in New Zealand, you do have to pay for getting paper bags. So most locals will now use reusable shopping bags. So it's handy to bring one from home if you're planning on doing your own shopping and own self-catering. Another handy item to have is a travel towel. So this is handy for even if you're staying in hotels. If you're thinking of doing water sports activities as well, just a travel towel is really useful for most of the sort of activities you're doing in New Zealand, as well as if you are, say, staying in budget accommodation where a towel isn't provided. It's handy for that as well. So travel towels are much smaller than your average cotton towel. They will usually dry a lot faster, and that's usually the main issue that you have with cotton towels is that they will never dry. They will get musty and smelly. So yeah, you can find there's ton of travel towels available to purchase at
I even
outdoor
review them
stores.
on the channel, so here you go.
Yeah, so travel towels are all good. Then also you may want to pack some games or some sort of entertainment, especially if you're traveling with kids. Cards, a pack of cards maybe, or maybe you prefer to just sort of play games on your phone. I don't know what you do for entertainment. Having a e-reader maybe. Just remember those items as well for when you do have some downtime, perhaps waiting for your flight.
So if you're planning on camping or staying in huts, you may want to pack yourself a lightweight tent. Make sure that it's well cleansed in order to pass biosecurity, as well as a sleeping mat. And if you're staying in huts, like in the park conservation huts, you will want a 4-season sleeping bag, some sort of lighting devices, a torch or headlight lamp. A small camping stove. You can get the canister in New Zealand, so don't bring the canister, just bring the stove that you screw on top. And then some camping cooking utensils. We obviously do have a lot of information about the camping kind of part of that in different videos, as well as on NZ Pocket Guide. Finally, you will need to get yourself a day pack. New Zealand is an outdoor country. You'll do a lot of hiking, day hikes and small day activities. You want a small day pack where you can put all your gears that you need to pack for that said day for your hike. So make sure that you do have a decent day pack. So while you are all continuing with some more questions about traveling in New Zealand, again, you can ask us anything to do with traveling in New Zealand. We'll continue with our coverage of summer packing for New Zealand. And Laura has prepared us with 10 final tips for packing for New Zealand in December, January and February. Take it away, Laura.
Yeah, so this is kind of going just sort of a wrap up of many of the things that we've already talked about during this video, but yeah, this will just sort of wrap it up quite nicely, hopefully. So starting with number 1, make sure that you do pack versatile outfits. So things that can be, for instance, that you can wear the same hiking pants throughout your trip that, maybe they're sort of the hiking pants that you can zip to make shorts or roll up to be a bit more sort of cooling, but you can also mix that up with different tops that will keep you warm. So it's more like, outfits that you can mix and match for different scenarios. Next up, consider the weather conditions in New Zealand before you travel. So just double check on the regions that you're visiting. What are the usual temperatures? Although the weather can be completely, the weather can change to what it usually is. Just check the different regions around the country, because, for instance, it is usually much warmer at the top of the North Island compared to the bottom of the South Island. So need to bear in mind all the different places you're visiting. Next up, make sure you do bring a waterproof and windproof jacket. Something that, even in summer, it can rain, and there's nothing more annoying than being completely soaked. Even if it's sunny, you can be really cold if you have been rained on. So, good quality waterproof and windproof jacket is definitely recommended. I recommend to pack a mix of woolen and cotton socks. Cotton is not always best for outdoors activities, and can take forever to dry, for instance, but they can be good for days if you're just sort of doing maybe trips in the city and you want a more cooling pair of socks, then they can be good for that. Don't forget I would bring a combination of hiking shoes and flip-flops. So, when you don't want to be wearing, your bulky sort of shoes, hiking shoes that are usually more comfortable for doing all your outdoor experiences. But then if you want to give your feet a rest from that, then flip-flops are really concise. They can pack into your bag really small and easily, but they can give your feet a breather. You might also want to wear them for some of these water activities you might be doing, where you need to transition between putting shoes on and going in the water, that sort of thing. Next up, sunscreen and insect repellent are two essential sort of toiletry gear that you need to pack for summer in New Zealand. Also, on top of that, it is a good idea to pack a small first aid kit and have that available in your day pack for your day-to-day goings on. It's handy to have things like painkillers, or in case you do have a small injury like cuts, or if you get blisters from hiking, that sort of thing, it's always handy to have a first aid kit available. Bring a reusable water bottle. The tap water in New Zealand is safe to drink, so there's no need to buy bottled water everywhere you go. So have your own reusable water bottle with you. In terms of electronic items, make sure that you pack your travel adapter, your camera or chargers, whatever electronic devices that you're bringing. Make sure that you have all those appropriate chargers with you. And then finally, consider whether you need to bring a backpack or a suitcase. Generally, backpacks are better if you are doing a lot of walking during your traveling. So if you have to walk, if you're traveling by bus, maybe you need to walk between your accommodation and the bus stop, or if you're doing multi-day hikes in New Zealand, then backpacks are usually more versatile and better for that sort of traveler. But if you are just, say, getting a rental car, just hopping from your rental car to your accommodation, which is 5 steps away, then a suitcase is generally easier to sort of unpack and repack and that sort of thing. So depends on what sort of traveling you're doing, but pick the right one for you.
Here you go. So that's everything you need to know about packing for a trip to New Zealand. There is a link to a full article with much more tips in the description of this video. Plus, on NZ Pocket Guide, we've got you covered with all the tips you need for making the most of your trip to New Zealand. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next video.